Welcome to Secrets from the Scene, a show for local musicians who want to improve their music, grow their audience, and learn about Minnesota's music scene. If you're interested in talking about all things music related and meeting interesting people from our local community, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Secrets from the Scene. My name is Stephen Helvig, and I'm your host. We're here today at my recording studio, Helvig Productions, out in the Minnetonka Excelsior neighborhood. I am joined today by John Tasch, which, if you are in the electronic music scene, you definitely know who this is. He is a critical piece of the scene today. He's been in the electronic music, Twin Cities electronic music scene for 35 years now, helping to bring it from DIY underground rooms and warehouses into the mainstream huge scene that it is today. We're going to talk about the history that he's lived, the business that he's built as a promoter, his own DJing past, and maybe some of the stories behind the artists that he's brought to town. So without further ado, please welcome JT, John Tasch.
Hey, how you doing? Let's do this.
So excited to meet you, man.
I'm excited to be here. Share some stories, information.
Yeah, you've got a large reputation. You've done some huge events, which, if I'm not mistaken, so SIMshows is is the events or the company or both? How do you?
It's the company, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sound in Motion. And what was your most recent event?
We actually just wrapped a huge weekend that was really amazing. We hosted Martin Garrix, who is one of the biggest DJs in the world.
Exactly,
really,
which is why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, he's huge. You know, ironically, he's his tour personnel were like, you know, the United States of America. It's his smallest market in the world.
No way.
Yeah, and so they're trying to put more into the United States of America because, I mean, the numbers they do across the rest of the world are. I mean, he probably is the biggest DJ in the world.
I had some friends at the show. They had a great time.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Night one, I think, because he did 2 nights, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did 2 nights at the Armory with that, which was amazing, phenomenal. And then we did a 30-hour event where we started an after party after the show on Friday at 2 a.m. and it ran for 30 hours straight at a warehouse location. So until 8 in the morning on Sunday. And so it was kind of like. It was a really powerful weekend for myself because it kind of incorporated everything I've done through my years. Like, kind of, you mentioned it in the intro a little bit, from the raw warehouse, you know, days to the giant mainstream, very accessible. It just brought it all together in one whole weekend, which was really powerful. It was great, you know. So you've got 6,000-7,000 people at the Armory for these events. And then, you know, during the day on Saturday, at our 30-hour event in the warehouse, you know, it was, you know, at 9 in the morning, there was about 20 people there because people were either sleeping or waking up or dead, you know,
yeah.
from the shows and stuff. But, you know, we had music going and we had all kinds of cool creative stuff throughout the day, everything from perler making to yoga, morning yoga, to a painting class, just all these different things going on. And so all while DJs were playing. So it was really cool to have all these different elements in one weekend. Definitely a bucket list item for me, just doing this, a long event where it's just nonstop. I've always wanted to do something like that. I've taken part in endless events through the years, from festivals to small events to large, giant events.
Yeah.
But be able to do something where it's 30 hours straight. I'd hope to go I want to go for 2 days straight, but it just wasn't going to work because the warehouse where we did it had another event Sunday. So
okay.
I'm okay with 30 hours straight. So it was a great weekend. I'm still a little bit tired.
I'm sure.
You know, I'm a school teacher. My last day of school Friday. So last week of school with the kids, which is nuts and out of control, right into this insane weekend. But yeah, it was unbelievable.
Was this like one of the biggest events you've ever put on?
Martin Garrix is big, not the biggest though. You
Okay.
know, there's, you know, Martin Garrix is huge in the U.S. There are DJs that are larger in the U.S.
Okay.
You know, we've done like a 3-night run with Subtronics, who's definitely he's one of the top 3 probably in the country right now in the DJ world. We've done multiple. We did a 3 a night run with Millennium a few years back. So there's a handful of acts that are just in the EDM world that are really, really big.
Yeah.
And some that are just too big for the Armory.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, it's the scale of it is intense.
I can't wait to ask more questions about it. But before we do all of that, let's go back to a little bit of your origin story. And, you mentioned you're a teacher as well. What do you teach? Where did this all begin?
Well, it all began with my mom, probably, because she's old. She's 85 or 86 or something. She still plays in an orchestra. Plays stand-up bass. So I was raised, and my father's never played an instrument, but loves music. So music's always been a part of my life. And I started playing violin when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Wow. I mean, as soon as I could hold the thing, probably my mother started me on lessons.
Is she a violinist?
Stand-up bass player.
Stand-up bass.
So it's just always been part of my life. I played violin, switched to viola in middle school. It was just one of my passions. Mm-hmm. People always find their thing in middle school and high school, and mine was viola and skateboarding. So music was always just ingrained within me to a certain extent. Grew up in Wisconsin. I moved here, go to the U of M, and I was exposed to WMMR, which was the radio station at the U of M before it switched, and First Avenue, and it changed my life. Just like the music, the accessibility to so much music through First Avenue and and WMMR just blew me away. And going to First Avenue and Sunday Night Dance Party, which was like the all ages thing you can go to.
Yeah.
When you're a kid or not old enough to hit the bars, was Sunday nights, and going there and just the energy and I remember my good friend who I moved here from, and we would just look up at the DJ would been the same place forever there, up high in the back, and just always remember looking up there and going, I want to do that someday. And here I am, as a performer musically, as a violist, I always loved playing solos. I loved playing quartets, duets. I loved in the orchestra. I've always loved performing, being a part of performing, having the opportunity to perform music, work with a crowd, engage with the crowd, and at the same time, own a craft essentially. So it's always something I've always really, really enjoyed. And so DJing is performing, and it is an art form. It's music, in a different form than when I grew up and raised, in the rock and roll world. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with DJing, just having that up, it's different. As an orchestral performer, you are playing set pieces, whether I'm doing a solo, that piece is planned and prepped and I perform it. Same thing with orchestra. But with a DJ set, you can do anything. And, I started DJing at First Avenue in probably 1992, and I DJed there for 4 years.
Okay.
And, DJing there was the best because they did these dance Terry nights on Friday and Saturday nights, and you could play anything. And it was just the most incredible thing. I could play European techno that you couldn't hear anywhere, and then I could drop into a Rage Against the Machine track and then throw in Bob Marley,
sure.
Or Bob Mould. It didn't matter. You could play anything. And it was just the most insane time to be able to DJ, to have that flexibility, because you could engage with the fans and the people out there on the dance floor. You could just sense the energy of the room and go any direction you wanted to. Obviously, you've got people in the office saying, "Well, you need to be doing some of this and some of this," but ultimately, whatever. You just kind of go with it, and you go with what's happening there. And I've always loved that, and I've always had I fell in love with the EDM music. right around 1990, 91 when I was exposed to house music and techno. And for whatever reason, I was just enthralled by the beats and the rhythm. And my mentor, Kevin Cole, who worked at First Avenue back then, and he would throw these small warehouse parties with another guy, Thomas Spiegel, and they would just stack speakers in these warehouses all on the walls. And you'd go there, it'd be late night, early morning, and it was just so raw and hypnotic, and intense and powerful, and fun. And I just fell in love with that. And as I learned, I taught myself how to DJ, while watching Kevin at his events.
Yeah.
And, there wasn't YouTube back then. You just had to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And as I got an opportunity to DJ at WMR, I took mixed shows there, radio show there, DJing for Kevin at his events, and eventually taking over and doing things at First Avenue. It just took over.
What was the scene like back then in the 90s?
Limited. Well, in the EDM side, limited.
Yeah,
obviously Minneapolis,
specifically the EDM side.
The Twin Cities has had a strong music community for a long, long time. But back then, the early 90s, it was, when it came to house music and techno, it was the 90s in the saloon. You could hear house music. The gay scene has always had house music as part of it. From the disco era transitioning into house music. And so, we'd go to I didn't really, the saloon always had house music, and they had 18 plus night as well on Sundays. So we'd go there. First Avenue, they had Sunday night dance party where it was a mix of all kinds of music. So it was very, very limited, especially for, an 18, 19-year-old college kid.
Yeah, of course.
And even as a 21-year-old, there wasn't, nowadays EDM's everywhere. On any Friday or Saturday night in the Twin Cities, there's 6 to 12 events going on, from breweries to, headliner events, nightclubs. It's everywhere. But back then it was, you can go to the 90s, you can go to the saloon, or get some of it Sunday nights.
What about like the underground scene in terms of warehouses?
Very limited. Once again, there just weren't a lot of people into it. It was new.
Right.
And, and so the trajectory was at its very beginnings. There was nothing on radio. So there wasn't social media, like everything was, there wasn't money to advertise on radio stations. So everything was word of mouth and flyers. So it was, and to a certain extent, it probably paralleled, the punk rock world and other stuff like that, in the early days with bands playing the first side of the Straight Entry, for example. There's so many parallels with music and, punk rock, hip hop, EDM, the trajectories and how they started and how they spread, very similar, but it's really, the culture. It's crazy that like in the 35 years I've been doing this and involved in it, it's really similar in so many ways. There's this community around it, a culture around it, where people really fall in love with the music and they just live it. So I ran a festival. I was part of a festival partner called Somerset Music Festival. We ran from 2012 to 2017 out in Somerset, Wisconsin. And somebody posted one of the years on Facebook, and they really summarized what the culture was about. And it was about how these moments when we go to a music festival or a warehouse party or an EDM event, one of the very unique aspects is it just takes you away to a different world. And you connect with people where you all have something in common, most people, where the music and that community and that energy. And it's a very unique experience that allows you to just forget about the problems of the world and just connect with the rhythm of the music and the people are there. And I've always found that to be incredibly powerful. This last weekend with Martin Garrison, this warehouse party we did all weekend encapsulates that perfectly. You've got all these people. The smiles at the Armory everywhere. It was just smiles. Obviously not everyone there is happy, but the energy and the smiles and the happiness is just infectious and powerful to me. Every walking around, people talking to me and seeing them dance and happy is just, I've always just thrived off that energy of EDM music. And the warehouse, you know, like, I mean, it was 7 a.m. on, well, I'll say 5 a.m. I DJ'd actually at the warehouse event, 4 to 5 a.m. And it was amazing. So much fun, right? You know, it's 5 a.m. I just finished my set and the room's packed at 5 a.m, right? And this kid comes on. We booked 39 DJs. And we really went out of our way to book as many DJs as possible that we had never had played before. And this kid comes up and he played after me. And he could have been my kid. You know, I'm old. And I mean, he looks like he's a kid. And he comes on. I've never heard him play before. We did this survey and we said, hey, we're doing this event. If you are creative, if you sell vend stuff, if you paint, if you're a DJ, submit here. We had like 190 DJs submit interest, right? And he was one of them and never heard of him. He wanted to play. We booked him, right? He comes on and proceeds to just destroy the place. Like 5 a.m, he owns it. You know, he's plays for an hour, 6 a.m, the room is still packed. And I'm just like, this is it. Like, this is the energy of it, right? Like everything for me, this old fart thrown down, transitioning to this complete, you know, multiple generations are away from me, really, a couple probably. And his mom's over there filming him, you know, and he just throws down and keeps everyone going until at 6 a.m, you know, and Minneapolis is not a late night. You know, like Chicago, New York, you have certain cities around the country and, you know, the night doesn't start till 11 or 12.
Sure.
You know, in Minneapolis, not the way it is. So it was so cool to see that because it brought all that, like all these people were there, whether it was the Armory and for that experience or this warehouse event at 6 a.m. They're just there forgetting about the bullshit of the world, which there's a lot right now, in my opinion. Forgetting about the hate. Forgetting about people, the judgment that people have, financial problems. They're just there to celebrate and feel the music and enjoy each other and dance. We have a fire pit at the after party spot. It's one of my favorite parts of the weekend. There's just always people out there chatting. Hey, what's your name? Yeah, you know, did you go to the show last night? Did you go to Martin Garrix? Oh, you went to the Loft or you went to First, whatever. But people are just there on the fire pit. They were doing something musical. And now they're at somewhere else musical, but they're just chatting with each other, getting to know each other.
The limited exposure I've had with EDM shows is that though. It's like super friendly, very like the community. You can tell that everybody's there with one goal, which is to have a good time, you know, and to sort of escape. And you see all kinds of different people, all different backgrounds, all different communities represented, but everybody dancing and there for the same reason. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's one of the things I absolutely love about the EDM community. And now, right now, this state of its community, it feels more powerful than ever from that perspective. Like an Armory show is a great example. Like you've got people up in the premium experience dressed to the T. You know, they're shopping in the nice pop places. They're dropping money on bottles. And then you've got ravers dressed in all kinds of gear, all kinds of clothes. And everyone's accepted, you know, like we live in a world where there's judgment everywhere, you know, and in the EDM world, it's just completely different. And I love that because it really doesn't matter, you know, and these are just personal beliefs and philosophies, right? Like I'm a firm believer in to each their own, right? So whatever your sexual background is, you know, the way your brain is wired, you know, the music you like, whatever, like it's cool. You know, like I don't like country music, but clearly a lot of people do. So I'm not going to judge that. Like if country music was bad, it wouldn't exist. Yeah. Right. So like, it's all opinion. Right. So I love how there just isn't that judgment where people just show up however they want. And people embrace each other and take people in. Now, I wish I could say that everyone at Armory shows or some of these EDM events is there for those reasons. But, you know, you got some problem people anywhere you go with. That's just life, right? Doesn't matter if you go to a sports game or First Avenue or the it's not the XL, or Target Center for a giant concert or the Armory or Warehouse. There's always going to be assholes,
of course.
you know, but overall, the overarching theme is acceptance,
Yes.
passion, energy, caring for each other, you know, and it's just such a powerful thing to be a part of.
I want to kind of start to understand where, from these DJ roots and you falling in love with music and falling in love with the electronic music scene, that the promoter started taking over when you started to look at hey, I can put on these events myself and build a business.
Well, that's an easy one because going back to the early 90s, there weren't places to do things. So I love DJing. I got to DJ on the radio station, which was great, but to actually perform and be able to work with the crowd, engage with the crowd, there weren't opportunities. So what do? Throw parties, you know? And so my mentor, Kevin Cole, had a concept called Depth Probe, which he did every couple months at First Avenue.
Depth probe?
Depth Probe, yep.
Okay.
It was really the first concept. Well, the first concept in EDM music was House Nation Under Groove, which was this Thomas Spiegel was this house music DJ. Him and Kevin did this House Nation Under Groove. This was these late night events.
Yep.
And then Kevin took the idea of that and he developed Depth Probe, which was just all EDM based. And it happened every couple months at First Ave on like a Thursday night, an off night. And it was just like all the weird Detroit techno or European EDM, the stuff that you wouldn't hear anywhere. You know, you could hear house music at the saloon, but that's what you would hear, house music. You wouldn't hear anything else. You know, there was all this other EDM that was starting to diversify musically in the early 90s. You couldn't hear it anywhere. And so that's what Depth Probe was. And that's where I started getting gigs with Kevin playing early.
Mm-hmm.
But I craved more. And, you know, I was raised by my mother to be a doer, you know, so if you want something done, go do it. You know, I'm a skateboarder, so they banned skateboarding when I was in high school, everywhere around the city. So we built ramps, and then they started putting restrictions on that. And my mom said, quit complaining, go to City Hall. So I started going to City Hall. I got involved, and you know, my senior year, I was on a committee, and this city funded $30,000 to build a skate park. It was, as far as I know, the first publicly funded skate park in the state of Wisconsin. And then it started a trend, you know, but the point is that my mother was like, well, do something about it. You know, I mean, there's opportunities to make things happen in life. And so I definitely credit my mother for that. Like I was raised, you know, pretty poor, but even when I was younger than that, like, oh, you want to do skateboard? Get a job, you know? So, I mean, I was a paper boy from whenever I could remember, you know, even before that, go shovel, you know? Yeah. So that mentality was ingrained and taught within me. So I wanted to DJ, I wanted to do more. So we threw parties. And back then there was another guy, his name's Woody. He goes by ESP, Woody McBride. He was also kind of like, you know, he worked with Kevin as well. So it was really Woody and I working under Kevin. And so we threw it was probably 1991. And we threw a rave. It was kind of our first one at the skate park, ironically, which was pretty cool. And so we threw some raves. And, but then I got hired at First Avenue. My mentor, Kevin, left to start up Rev 105, which I also was working at. But he was DJing at First Avenue regularly. And so he wanted to get me in there to take his spot essentially. So he got me a tryout. I won the tryout. So I started DJing there regularly. So Woody started continuing more doing the raves, and I was DJing 2, sometimes 3 times a week at First Avenue. So I was getting my fill. It was great. I mean, I was getting to play anything I wanted. Yeah. I also at the same time had a skateboard warehouse with a DJ set up. So I'd be DJing at First Avenue, and then we'd go to take a squad over to my warehouse. It was a trampoline, a giant spine ramp, DJ setup. We just throw after there. So I was getting all my DJ fix. It was great. And so I was doing that for 4 years in the 90s. At the time, Woody was doing raves. I was doing First Avenue. And the Rev 105, I was doing mixed shows on there. We did a radio depth probe. So a radio version of Kevin's concept, where I mixed all the music. He still did the vocals, so I produced the show. So I mixed the show and produced it as well. And Then probably around 1996-ish, Rev 105 got bought out by a competition, mainstream radio. And they offered me, to keep my job as a producer, but I didn't want to do that. I worked at Rev 105 because of the people. It was all music people. Brian Oak, Mary Lucia, BT. It's people that, there's people who are still involved in radio.
Yeah.
So it was just like the most amazing collection of people. So I was like, no, thanks. And that is when then, I was kind of a turning point in my life. What am I going to do? I needed a job, and I worked a summer program with kids, and I loved working with kids. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I can be a teacher. At the same time, I still wanted to DJ, around the same time. So I'll wrap up the teaching part. So I started taking teaching classes at the U of M. They put us in schools right away to get with kids. I loved it. So like, boom, that was the easy trajectory. My health insurance, my retirement, stable income was there, because the money in the 90s, you couldn't live off being a DJ or throwing events. Impossible.
Yeah.
So it was just always a passion project, and it still is. To this day, I could live off of what I do, but not well. And I live a very humble life. I have a kid. Would I be able to help my kid through college, stuff like that? Go on vacations? No. So the 90s, it was, I needed that other job. So that's where teaching came from. Right around the same time that Rev 105 got bought out, things were always difficult First Ave for me, because the management, it's always been a rock and roll room.
Sure.
And back then, EDM music was new. And some of the management they always just called it boom, boom, boom. That's all they called it. And that's not what it was for me. So I played the game for years. I always worked very, very hard. I'm a very loyal person. And where I commit myself, I commit myself. And it was always hard though. I was constantly questioned. Towards the end of my tenure there, I ended up throwing an event at a different venue with Woody, the guy I did stuff with before, and a former talent buyer at First Avenue. His name's Rich Best. And so 3 of us threw an event at another place. Well, after that weekend, First Avenue reamed me. They were very mad at me. I quit. I was like, I've brought all my ideas to you, and you've chosen not to take them. So you can't blame me for taking my creative ideas to somewhere else.
Sure.
Right? I was still showing up for First Ave, my DJ gigs, doing everything. So I was done. That was the tipping point. I was like, I'm done, So I quit there and we started a company working. It was Rich and Woody and I. Rich had left First Avenue as a talent buyer and was working for a place called Compass Entertainment. So he was essentially, it turned into a competition for First Avenue.
Okay.
And he was booking deep bands and stuff at other rooms around town. That Rich transitioned over to Clear Channel, which would become for Live Nation. So Rich transitioned over there. So we flipped our company, essentially flipped with him, because that was the financial backer for things. And so there was the 3 of us. Rich was kind of the money guy, making sure A plus B worked, or 2 plus 2 equals 4, not 5.
Yeah.
Woody was the ultimate creative guy. Like, he's a dreamer, right? And I was the guy that held everything together, really. Because I've always had a knack for number side of things, but I also have a very creative side. And if it was just those 2, they would have never lasted, I don't think. Because they're both incredibly good at what they do. But Woody never understood or never really wanted to understand Rich's side. And Rich was always too much of a, well, we can't do this. Well, there's money's here,
Sure.
And so I just helped keep things together.
You could bridge the gap there.
Yep. And for me, it was wonderful because I was involved in the financial side, but I didn't have to solely be involved in the financial side because I don't like that side. And the creative side I loved. So I got to do that as well.
Yeah.
So it was really the best of both worlds.
When did SIMshows become a thing, man?
So we did this company called Mile High. That was our company. That started in probably 1995, 1996.
Okay.
And so we threw raves then. We threw raves around the Twin Cities. We threw some raves in Madison, Wisconsin, a couple in Chicago, threw one out in the Denver area, one in LA. So we did a lot. We did that 3 or 4 years probably. I was living in the rave scene. That's what I was doing pretty much. At the same time, we were doing weird stuff like there were other rave promoters, and if there was another rave, we had a small sound system. So like we would, if there was a rave that wasn't ours on a Saturday night, we would do an after party. The raves would go till 6, 7, 8 in the morning. We would throw up speakers down in the Mississippi somewhere, just totally random locations. And we'd have flyers, we'd pass them out the rave, and then we'd, 8 in the morning, we'd start an after party down by the river.
Sure.
And all these different places, So I was still doing these raw, weird underground things, just finding places to DJ. And I was still trying to take gigs in other places as well. So I got my fix there. So the Mile High days were probably 4 or 5 years-ish. But then in the late 90s, raves were getting bigger. And, raves have always had an element of drug use involved. Ecstasy primarily, LSD, stuff like that. And that element is what mainstream media, police focused on. In the Midwest locally, the turning point was there was a venue that we used this venue in Madison, Wisconsin, and there was a Milwaukee promoter as well that used it. So at like once a month, there would be parties at a giant convention center there. And we threw a giant event there, probably 6,000, 7,000 people. So like the biggest rave we ever had in the Midwest. And like 2 weeks later, other company threw a party there. And the next day, a kid was found dead on the side of the road. He OD'd. Very, very tragic, very sad. We had the next event there. The approach from the community, law enforcement, was totally different. They were searching cars coming in. They had people with, infrared goggles literally up in the ceiling. It essentially killed, like, ravers don't want that. They're not going to deal with that, right? That essentially killed that underground giant warehouse type convention center rave scene. It really did. It shut down. Like, we couldn't throw events. You couldn't make the numbers meet anymore. Yeah. Similarly, a similar thing happened here in the Twin Cities. We used to throw our raves, a lot of them at the basement at Royal Wilkins Auditorium, ironically. Mm-hmm. It's this giant freaking room. It's crazy, right? Like, just imagine Royal Wilkins, but the entire basement is open. It's huge, holds thousands of people. And so we would build giant walls of bass. It was kind of Woody's brainchild. It was great, like 100 feet long, 10, 12 feet tall, all speakers, right?
Sure.
It was insane, right? But something similar happened where this was really literally around the same time the Madison thing happened. Someone threw an event at a small space in downtown St. Paul. Something happened. It turned out that someone from the St. Paul Police Department actually owned the building or managed it, and it was at their building. And so we typically at our St. Paul events paid a couple cops. It was like 2, right? Because things didn't really happen at these events, Well, police department got pissed about what happened, and they made us have like 35 cops. I mean, it put us out of business. You do the math, 35 cops working an 8-hour event, at $40 an hour.
Yeah.
Like we never made a lot of money these shows ever. If we did, I mean, they were typically throughout the course of the year, the raves we did were, you make a little bit, you lose a little bit. I mean, I really didn't make money. We were fortunate to have Rich aside, whether it was Compass Entertainment or then going into Clear Channel Live Nation as a financial backer, because otherwise you just couldn't. Even with that, you couldn't justify once the police bill came in after that rave, our next rave there, you couldn't do it. You can't run a business when you're losing money all the time.
Right.
It just doesn't work. So as things and similar things were happening across the country. The Rave Act, I think it was called the Rave Act, was passed. I can't remember if it was Bill Clinton's presidency, but there was a national act that was actually passed that linked venue owners to liability. Once again, it just killed it. Essentially, the rave scene across the United States of America shifted. So things started shifting into clubs and other venues. So for us locally, that meant the Quest. Now, I wasn't going to touch First Avenue because of what happened at First Avenue. Keep in mind that when I quit First Avenue, they brought another DJ in and they took like all my ideas and implemented all of them after I left. So I was irate. Okay. I was pissed. My DJ name, I had a star on the wall, DJ, because I used to go by DJ JT. I changed my DJ name. I was like, I'm not going to be, I would not be associated with, I was so upset. So I changed my DJ name to Jack Trash, because Rich called me Jackie and Jack, and Woody referred to me as Trash. So I put together, became Jack Trash. So I wouldn't do anything at First Avenue. So the Quest, which was owned by Prince, we started doing events at the Quest. And so the music was across country was transitioning into more legit nightclub type venues, so we were doing that, and we did that here. The relationship, our company between Rich and Woody and I was shifting throughout this. Woody always had more of a flair for the underground, which I totally respect, but things had shifted. Musically they had shifted. Mm-hmm. Accessibility with venues had shifted, and our relationship just shifted. And so probably right around the year 2000 somewhere, I couldn't work. I couldn't work in the relationship anymore with the three of us. And so I disbanded the company. Rich and I were very, very close. I knew that. So my gut was like, well, Rich and I will probably just keep going, which is what happened. So I broke the company up, and Rich and I just stayed together, just renamed ourselves Sound and Motion. So Sound and Motion came from the Mile High, essentially 2/3 of it. The last couple of years of Mile High was primarily, not to throw Woody on the bus, but Woody was a producer. He was DJing around the world. His heart and soul was just in other things, essentially. Yeah. So Rich and I were doing almost everything anyways. So the transition was really more of a name transition than anything else. So we started Sound in Motion. The name came from the fact that sound, to me, is always in motion. Whether it's rock and roll or EDM, music is always shifting and changing. The opportunities are endless. What you can do with it. So we came up with the name Sound in Motion and just kept going. Doing the same thing. Doing events at the Quest, started doing some underground raves, different little places.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's so far from this story, like very organic, right? It's one thing leads to the next, these relationships, the events probably get a little bit bigger every time, maybe a little bit more well-organized or better planned or whatever. But, you just did Martin Garrix at the Armory. Like, at what point did you start going, we have something here? This, with SIMshows, for instance, of like, this is becoming bigger than just the next event. It's becoming a legit institution.
Didn't happen for a while, because going back to that kind of early 2000s, the events actually, it's been more of a roller coaster ride than anything. Like, if people get in the EDM world right now, they would have thought, wow, this is crazy, right? But it's not been like this. Like 20 years ago, if I would have fast forwarded to my future, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
No, like no way. No way would I ever imagine.
What do you think was the turning point?
Social media, I would say.
Okay.
Social media and the advent of SoundClouds, Spotify's, free music, right? Because traditionally, radio was the way people found out about music. If you wanted to break a band, you got to get a song on the radio, Otherwise, you're doomed to touring the 7th Street entries of the world, which, nothing against that. You get to perform, but to be able to make a living, and be successful, you got to land on the radio, And because radio leads to a record deal or something, but with with the introduction of the Spotify's and the SoundClouds of the world, or whatever it was back then, I don't even remember, like shareable online music.
So then EDM grows from there and becomes so much more popular.
Yeah, because you don't need to have a song on radio. Subtronics, I mean, if you look at numbers and ticket sales, and not even how much he makes, because he puts a lot of money into production and what he does. If you just look at sheer numbers, Subtronics top 3 in the world, in the country for EDM. I mean, that guy never has songs on radio anywhere unless it's some weird EDM station.
Sure.
You're never going to hear that. You never hear Subtronics anywhere in the Twin Cities on the radio station, ever. And yet, he's headlining Breakaway Festival in a month. He just played main stage Coachella. I mean, we had him a year and a half ago at the Armory and played 3 nights at the Armory, sold out Friday and Saturday, and still had like 4,500 people on a Sunday night. All organic, right? So like, as social media and these online accessible music started to take over, that changed the game completely. Because in the 2000s, there was not money. I mean, there was a few years where the only shows we were throwing were at this place called Taboo that held like maybe 300 people, right? So the scene had gone down so much. Mm-hmm. There weren't venues. The artists, the music wasn't accessible. There was a down curve to it for sure. But I've always loved music. And so I had a job as a teacher. So I was always fortunate where I never had to make money. I've always been fortunate. In all these years I've done this, I've never had to live off music. And I feel like that is what has kept my passion alive for this. Because I have to make enough to stay in business, but I don't actually have to make any money. My goal has always been, I want to get my kid through college. That's all I care about. I got to take care of my people as well, right?
Yeah.
So as long as I can take care of my people and get my kid through college, I don't care about making any money. I don't. I got my teacher salary. I live a humble life. I got health insurance, retirement. I'm good, right? And so here I am, 35 years later, throwing parties. Similar situation. I didn't make money on marketing gigs. The show's lost money. See, people think there's money flying around, but the money that went in production alone for that event, hundreds of thousands of dollars just for the production, right? So as a promoter, over the course of year to year at the Armory, pretty much break even for me.
That's so fascinating.
But I don't care because what I get to do is amazing, right? Because not only do I get to put these shows on, my staff get paid. I get people that love this music into positions where they get paid to do what they love.
Sure.
Right?
So how many people are working for the company?
I mean, we really have 5 to 10 core employees. But then if you look at an Armory show, for example, you've got all the stagehands, you've got all these different people doing things.
Yep.
But my core EDM fans, we've got a 90-person street team and people who do different things. But I've got 5 to 10 people that get paid to do stuff that they really love to do. And to me, that's really important. My production manager is a school bus driver, but he's there with me at 9 a.m, Sunday morning, and we're tearing down LED panels and lasers at the after party space after he spent the weekend stage managing the Armory. Sure. He's just like I am. He loves his music, so it's being able to provide for people, but also it's the platform. Okay. So I will DJ typically once a year at the Armory. And when I play at the Armory, I always take a moment to talk. And I might cry here. I'm sorry.
No.
I care about people a lot. Minneapolis has gone through a lot. Yesterday was 6 years ago, George Floyd. The recent stuff with ICE. I believe in people. I believe in taking care of people. And our community has gone through a lot. And I cherish the opportunities to talk to people and use my company as a platform Whether you agree with me or disagree with me doesn't matter. You don't have to. I respect that we don't all agree on things, but having a platform like stand on stage in front of 7,000 people and taking a minute to talk to people and say, please go out and vote. Look at someone next to you, give them a hug. Look at people on social media, and if someone looks like they need help, reach out to them. Be able to do those things and say those things on my story or my Snapchat, knowing that thousands of people watch it every day, is really powerful to me. With the ICE stuff, or recently when our president started withholding SNAP benefits. A lot of our fan base needs that. They're working jobs, paycheck to paycheck, and things are cut out and they don't have money. So when that happened, we put out a survey and said, hey, if you need money, hit us up, right? Hundreds of people applying there. So I'm out there Venmoing people, $100 at a time. During the SNAP benefit crisis, we dished out in excess of 10 grand, right? Because these people need help. Like, they've taken away SNAP benefits from people that are working, just trying to survive. And so I can use this platform to help people, right? We did the same thing in COVID. When COVID hit, all of these jobs were gone, right? Like buying diapers for a newborn. You're working a job and you're trying to buy diapers or food, and the jobs are gone. So we did the same thing then. And I was like, I earmarked 10 grand at that point. And the responses we got, I was like, oh my God. And we put a little thing on there. Why do you need it? And then every single person that submitted was legit and needed money. So that 10 grand, forget it. We went way beyond that. So when COVID, I was literally, we picked parking lots, and because it was COVID, you couldn't touch stuff, right? People could choose gift cards, Target, Cub Foods, put them in envelopes. And I would go to parking lots, I'll be at this Cub Foods in Minneapolis in the parking lot, put them all in in a bin, and I just sit in the car, and people would come up, I'd windows close, wave, because we're not supposed to breathe on each other,
right.
not shaking hands. People would come up, they'd get their name, take their gift card and leave, the power and so stuff like that, and the power to be able to, I believe in positivity, life sucks sometimes, not everything's beautiful, but I believe in community, and being able to take care of people and look out for each other benefits everyone. I just truly believe that. Just because I'm okay doesn't mean someone else is. And if I could do something to help someone else, why not? And I just firmly believe that there's power in that. And that's one of the things I love about our communities, because people do that for each other.
Yeah, and I think that when people see an example of that or have that kindness bestowed upon them, it spreads. And that's part of what makes the communities as strong as it is.
100%, right? So having a platform to do that with this company, as the owner of the company and as a DJ, I love, and I'm blessed and so fortunate to be able to be in this position where I could do that. Whether it's $100 gift card to someone that helps them get through. I literally, a month ago, I was at an event and this guy came up to me. He's like, you'll never know, but I got to tell you this, during COVID, I had no money. I was out of food. And the $100 gift card you gave me got me food. I had a job interview 2 weeks after that. I got the job and I made it. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't running this company, right? I wouldn't have that opportunity. Wouldn't have that opportunity. So there's so many layers of what I get to do with my company. We have local vendors at our events, and be able to provide local vendors, these creative people that are out there just trying to live doing something they love. I love that. It's great, for people to be able to, these young DJs, the DJ world's like the 7th Street Entry. The 7th Street Entry has always been that place where a young band just want to play the entry. It's like you get that door opened, you know? So like, that's why it was so powerful going back to my experience just early Sunday morning when I got done, that kid came on. I never heard of this kid. He's played a couple times with the U of M at like a college club or something, you know?
And here he used to walk into a packed room and do his thing.
Just throw down.
Yeah.
It was so powerful. I love it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna book that kid again. He crushed it. I'm gonna get him another DJ gig, you know? I'm sitting out by the campfire at this warehouse party, and it was Saturday morning, and there's a bunch of us around the campfires shooting the shit, and this guy that actually works for another promoting EDM company in town is like, how do you pick who plays? How come you don't play more, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, I've DJ'd for decades, and I love DJing, and I could DJ anytime I want for my events. But that's not my role. Like, my role is to try and build community and provide opportunities. Like Kevin Cole back in the early 90s gave me opportunities. I would not be where I'm at today as a person, as a musician, as a performer, as a DJ, as a business owner, without somebody saying, hey, here you go.
Yeah. And I think it's that mentality, which is why you're still doing it, why 35 years has gone by and you're still in the scene. How many, obviously you probably don't have a specific number, but how many people have you seen come and go in 35 years that try to be a promoter and then just fizzle out and burn out? I think part of the reason your longevity is there is because of that mentality. You're not doing it to make money or to build a bigger platform for yourself. You're doing it for all the better reasons of building the community, providing opportunity for, other people have jobs that make more money, right? Because of your company. And the community has thrived ultimately over this tenure. And that's where longevity comes from, is from the right reasons.
I mean, I'd like to think so. I've never really analyzed it. I've always just told myself that when it becomes more of a job than a passion, I got to quit. And I just love this. And the way it's grown, I've seen so many people come and go through the years, and I would never blame anyone, but because I've never, if I had to live and die by the music industry, I would have quit decades ago,
Well, and I think that's a big part of it too, is that the more in it you are for wanting it to be the one thing that sustains you, the harder it's going to be. You're going to have more turnover in that regard.
Yeah. Then I have to make decisions based on finances.
Right.
Which it is a reality. I do have to consider finances, and I take that very seriously. I've got to stay in business. I got to take care of my relationships with the venues I work with. I mean, my relationship with Ned, the owner of the Armory, is very unique. At the end of the day, he spent an ungodly amount of money investing in that place, turning it into what it is. I've got to show up for him, right? Like, he deserves that. The opportunity he gives me to do what I do there, which is pretty much anything, it's crazy. Like, I have to respect that, right? So while I don't have to worry about my bottom line, I do have to worry about making sure my people are taken care of, the artists are taken care of, the fans are taken care of, the owners of the venues are taken care of. But I mean, it's kind of just who I am.
But you also don't want to lose a bunch of money, obviously.
No, I don't want to, but it's, I don't know. I live a really humble life. I rent a small house. I drive a 2010 car, a Prius, I'm not a material person. No disrespect to anyone that is. I grew up poor. So I grew up living off of what I had. And I don't, my life, I find happiness. Like, I'm a school teacher, right? Teachers are paid shit. My son's graduating college. He's going to start his job as an engineer in 2 weeks, making 20 grand a year more than I am. And I've been teaching for 26 years, Like, I'm a teacher. I know the things, but I've been doing these things for forever, and I'm happy. I love what I do. To me, being happy and fulfilled is what is the most important thing to me. And with both of my jobs, this is what I get to do. I can't tell every event, everyone's just like, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. It's all I hear. And my response is always the same. No, thank you. Like, in a music community in particular, it's a symbiotic relationship. You know, like if people don't come and support the events, whether you're the 7th Street Entry or the Fine Line or the Armory or a warehouse party, if people don't pay to go to an event, you're out of business. So at the end of the day, I'm no different than this kid that played after me the other night, just in my bedroom playing music. I'm no different. My roots come from the same as that kid who played the other night. The same as someone else just getting into DJing with some little controller or listening to music, dreaming. I'm no different. I'm just doing it a long time. It's the only difference, right? I'm just the same, you know? So it's really, you know, going back to that turning point, it's amazing to be at the point it is now.
Yeah.
I never, ever would have imagined it.
I think we've got to touch on some of the stories that you likely have from some of these events, from you know, major artists that you've hosted or major events that you've hosted. Are there any that come to mind that you want to share that you know, I just feel like I'd miss an opportunity since you've done so many different types of artists and events?
I mean, endless. You know, I mean, the number of events I've done over the years. But it's crazy because people are always like, what's it like with the big DJs and stuff? And yet some of the most powerful things are just like what happened just this weekend with that kid. Like that energy is what keeps my passion alive for this. Or like there's so many DJs that I booked this weekend that I'd never seen before. And watching them just throw down was so powerful. But on the unique side, there's all kinds of things, you know. One that comes to mind was Somerset, one of our festivals. Throwing a festival, you got to handle weather and deal with weather. And I don't remember what year it was. It was probably our 4th or 5th year, but there was crazy storms moving through Minnesota. And, you know, weather generally moves west to east. And we had a weather team and we were watching it. And the storms were like bad, like lightning, heavy rain, thunder. And so we had to make the decision to evacuate the festival and get everyone in their cars. And so keep in mind, I'm on the phone. Like I do business in Minneapolis. So we're an hour away in Somerset. I've got, you know, we do shows at the Union Rooftop and Crave Rooftop downtown Minneapolis. So I got the GM for both of those places sending me videos in real time, like of what's it's like in downtown Minneapolis. And it's fucking nuts, right? Our runners who are taking the artists from the airport to the site are literally underneath highways because they can't drive. It's raining so heavy, you cannot drive.
Yeah.
So we're like, we got to do it. So we get on the mics, we pull the artists off, multiple stages. You know, we need everyone to go to their cars. The rain all literally splits around the festival. It doesn't rain a drop.
No way.
Right? People are ready to riot.
Yeah.
They're at the gates. Thousands and thousands of people. So they're so mad. They rushed the gates. They broke the gates. I'm right there with security. It's dangerous. I'm scared. Security can't stop them. They bum rush the stage, the main bowl area at Somerset Amphitheater, 10,000 plus people. I don't remember how many people it was. I go on the stage with the mic. I mean, they were ready to riot. And I don't remember what I said, but Deadmau5, who's very influential, been around forever in the EDM world. I didn't know he was standing on the side of the stage. He was the headliner that night. Whatever I said worked. And I walked off stage, breathing a sigh of relief. And he just looked at me and said, nice job. But it was such an intense moment, not knowing what was going to happen. Because the energy was so negative at that moment, and yet to be able to shift it. And then it was beautiful. We got the music back on and it was going. Another Somerset experience, Grizz, who is also a very huge artist in this country, just sold out the Gorge with Subtronics. They did this thing called Grizztronics, those two together. We did 2 nights with Grizz, sold them all both in March. He's huge. We did a pop-up stage one year. It was actually our last year of Somerset. And this is a crazy story too, for multiple reasons. We did a pop-up stage. So we moved the stage each day. So Sunday morning, we're literally building the stage, just trying to get it ready. The gates open at like 2. He walks over at like 1:30. He's got his flash drive. He's like, hey, when do you guys start playing? I'm like, dude, we're not even open yet, right? But the guy's like, he's amazing. He's ready to play. 2 PM, right? So he leaves, comes back at like 3 or something. And we had an app built for the festival. Rufus Du Sol, who's huge now, just massive, playing the new amphitheater out by Shakopee in August. I can't tell you how many tickets we've sold, but it's a lot. They were new. They were starting to hit stride in certain places in the country. They had not hit stride here at all. So they were playing on our second stage. We put out a ping notification about 3 or 3:30 that Grizz was playing the pop-up stage. Everyone in the festival left wherever they were and went right to the pop-up stage, including people that were watching Rufus Du Sol. So there was like 100 people left at Rufus Du Sol who are now, they're EDM, but I don't know that you really call them. They reach a broad demographic. Okay. They're massive. So there's 100 people left at Rufus Du Sol on our second stage, and thousands of people on this small pop-up stage for Grizz, who is this huge act. He closed our festival last year. He was headlining the main stage that night, and here he is at 3:30 in the afternoon on this small pop-up stage, ready to throw down. But it was so crazy to watch everyone just like, whoa, go there,
Have you brought in an artist where you thought, after seeing as much as you've seen, like, this person's operating on another level?
Yeah, definitely. One of the guys that comes to my mind is Qbert. Qbert's an old scratch DJ, but through our years of raves, we tried really hard to incorporate turntablism or some kind of creative, because turntables and the DJs that did DJ tricks was a different thing than just a hip hop DJ, and Qbert was just next level. I remember one time we did a small event with him for like 150 people, because it's never been big. You don't sell a lot of tickets for these things.
Yeah.
But he came in and he had this it was just one turntable system, but it had like a crossfader on it. And he literally just, for like an hour, it was an instrument. He treated it like an instrument. And for an hour, just did all this stuff with records just on this one record player. And it was crazy what he did, because his brain, how he treated that, he traded the records and the turntable as an instrument as opposed to just playing the music. Another time, back in, it was the Quest that was owned by Prince was bought out by Ned Abdul, who owns the Armory and built out the new amphitheater.
Oh, okay.
Shakopee. That's how I started my relationship with Ned. He bought the Quest from Prince and turned it into Epic and put money into it, redid it. So we did an event with this guy, Richie Houghton. That's techno guy, Detroit techno guy. I don't even know when it was. Probably 2005-ish. And there was this transition going on from vinyl to digital. And it took years. The first transition, natural thing, was CDJs, where you would, put a CD in there, and you would manipulate. Instead of a turntable, it was a digital turntable. And so that was the first transition. But Richie had worked in developing this technology that no one knew about, and he toured. And so he put a record on. He put a record on the turntable and put the needle on and played a song. Nothing weird about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it was all interfaced with a computer. And then he changed the song without changing the record. So it was time coded, which none of us had ever seen. This is brand new. And we're all just watching him do this. Like, this is, I can't comprehend this. What is happening right now is just literally mind blowing, because going from the days of vinyl, a record plays, it tracks the groove, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this was completely different. It was digital time code. Just completely blew. My entire team, we're all just sitting there like, just mind blowing, right? And that time code connection is what everything's based on now. You know, the entire Martin Garrix show, from the visuals to the lighting and the lasers, it's all time code connection with the music. So when he plays a song, that time code is sent to everything in the front of the house, and it interfaces everything. And so nowadays, it's just what people it's normal.
It's the standard.
Yes, it's the standard. But back then, to see him drop the needle and then change the song. Oh, you're like, every minute you could change the song. Just completely mind blowing.
Yeah.
So crazy.
What's the best backstage story you could share?
It's not a good one.
Well, you don't have to share.
I'll share it. I'll leave names out.
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Actually, I've got a couple good. I'll give a good one and a bad one. I'll give the bad one first. Once again, I just comes down to me caring about people. We had an artist, this is probably 15 years ago, and they're very well known worldwide, and I will not mention the name, but they're on a tour bus, turn around, and after the show, they finagled a couple women to go on the bus, and it happened to be a couple women that worked for my company, DJs. They were gay. He aggressively tried to get one of them into the bedroom on the bus. They got off. I found out about that. Immediately afterward, he tried to do it with a fan. And the fan, I didn't know, but had a friend who I did know. So that friend had called me. I'm a very public person, public face of the franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will give my phone number out. I don't care. Like, if you're unhappy and you're my fan or a customer, call me. Let's have a conversation. I want to know what happened, right?
Yeah.
The people that are happy, they're easy. They're going to come back. If something happened at an event and they're unhappy, I want to know why. What happened? Is something I have control over? I want to try and do something about it. If something, you got in a fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, I can't control that, right? So this woman that it happened to, the second woman that happened, the guy called me. I talked to him. I calmed him down, gave him some free tickets to another show, made sure she was okay. She was okay. Nothing happened. She managed to get off the bus without anything happening, but still intense.
Of course. Yeah.
You could say traumatic depending on the situation and the person, right? So that was bad enough. I mean, look, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, this shit, I'm sure happens all kinds of places in music. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. So to make it worse, I sent an email to the agent after it happened. The agent forwarded it to the artist. The artist sends me an email directly, basically telling me he's going to blacklist me from all these giant DJs in the world. They will never, ever play for me. And I was just beside myself. Now I sent an email back, telling him what I thought. That's complete bullshit, because I also lost a bunch of money on the show. I said, I lost thousands of dollars. My entire company, myself, working our asses off to push you and your brand and your event at this festival. And you almost sexually assault two people on your tour bus. And you're married and have a young kid. And I bring it to the attention of your agent so that maybe you could be made aware that this might not be the best thing. And you come at me. I was like, I don't give a shit what you do. You do whatever you want. I don't care. Taking care of people is more important and bigger than whether I work with you again in my life. So that's the negative. That's one of the negatives. One of the positives is in the 2000s, actually, this is probably 2012, actually, I think. 2012, DJ Tiesto, arguably the most well-known DJ in history. I mean, he's in his 50s, still doing it and crushing it on a worldwide level. The guy continues to reinvent himself. In the 2000s, from like 2000, well, probably like 2005-ish to 2000, when we have in 2012, a couple fun stories. First of all, preface this, I booked him for his second gig in North America ever.
Oh, wow.
Because one of my guys, I didn't know who he was, but one of my guys, DJs, was like, you got to bring this guy. He's from the Netherlands. He's incredible. So we booked him, right? Probably 300-400 people there, right? He literally is probably he has the most longevity. Well, not the most longevity, but on the scale that he does.
Sure.
To be able to do it for as many people as he has, for sure. There's other DJs, no disrespect to other DJs. DJs are Carl Cox, or DJs that have been doing as long as him, right? But on the scale that he's done it, and the sheer numbers, untouchable. So in 2012, we did an event with him at Roy Wilkins Auditorium. And he had a bad reputation. People thought he was an asshole. Lots of trash talking. Was there legitimacy to it? Not really, but there's not a lot of legitimacy to all kinds of trash talking. So I've always stuck up for people. I believe you should judge a person when you've had a conversation with them. Give people a chance. Because there's, the game of telephone, you hear something,
Yeah, just gossip.
I believe in getting to know people, right? People that know me, if they want to say something about me, cool, I get it. I can be an asshole sometimes, I'm sure. I'm intense. I'm very passionate about what I do. And I'm not perfect, right? So if I rub someone the wrong way, that's fair. I'll own it. I'm not perfect. I fucked up in my life. But if you never talked to me, because I spent years of my life being judged as well in the communities, oh, you're the mainstream, you're whatever, just the stupidest shit. People that don't know me, you make all this fucking, the biggest, you make all this money, you're getting, no, this ass shit that bugs the hell out of me. But Tiesto had, mainstream, sellout, all the asshole. So we're at Roy Wilkins Auditorium. It's the end of the show. He's backstage and there's a bunch of girls back there. Him and his tour people and 15 good looking women. They're all drinking, partying, just typical, just living the lifestyle. I'm talking to this paramedic out backstage and, the paramedic, I will say was not very attractive. And I have to say that just in reference to the big DJs that you see are always around very attractive women. Right. Mm-hmm. So the paramedic, I'm having a conversation and she says that Tiesto saved my life. And I'm like, oh, what happened? I want to hear this. She tells me that she tried to commit suicide and, I might cry again. And one of the people in her program I don't know what you call it, had a CD, In Search of Sunrise. It was a series of CD releases that Tiesto did and introduced this paramedic to the CD. And to this paramedic, that connection with that CD and that time of her life literally saved her life. I was like, wow, this is powerful. So I go in the dressing room and I had known Tiesto, Tice, his name's Tice. I had known him forever because, we booked him, when nobody knew him.
Yeah.
And he came and he separated himself from the party and I shared the story. He's like, oh, JT, you got to bring her in here. So I bring her in there and he ignores all the partying and just sits on the couch with this paramedic. And that's who a person is right there. Uh-huh. Right. I'm not going to fault the guy for wanting to drink bottles and party with attractive people. I'm not going to fault a person for that one bit, but to be able to separate yourself from that and take time with this paramedic to just have a conversation, that is what a person is, right? Those are moments that define a person, so that's, I got the bad side of the EDM world and then a very powerful side, with someone like Tiesto.
Ah, great. Thank you for sharing those stories. That's gave me everything that I was hoping to get. Good variety of stuff, and it shows the power of these events and the influence that it can have on people. And this has been an awesome conversation. I don't want to keep you all morning. I appreciate your time. I have a few more things I just kind of want to rapid fire through to get your perspective before we go. Does that sound good?
I'll try, but I talk.
I want to circle back a little bit because you did spend a lot of time talking about the kid recently at the last weekend that DJ'd after you. But on that topic, what do you think? What do you think local DJs or people that are just getting in the scene misunderstand the most or get wrong the most as they're trying to make their way into the scene?
I think they think it's easy. They see someone like a John Summit of the world. John Summit's one of the biggest DJs in the country. He's massive. They see, with social media, they see these DJs or Subtronics I've talked about, for example. Subtronics is as real as he gets. He is just so humble, so down to earth. They call him wooks. Wooks are like super bass heads, dressed pretty grimy. Wooks are known to not shower and use deodorant. He's a super wook, but he's just so fucking down to earth. He posts a video, he's super real, doesn't live for the life of glam, but he's huge. And then you got people like John Summit who are out there living it full on, right? So I think young DJs think that it's going to be easy.
What's the wrong way to ask for a gig?
I literally got a DM like this 2 days ago. You should book me. I'm going to be big.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with confidence, but right now everyone's a DJ. So to come out of the gate and say, I'm going to be big, my experience, this is just my experience, okay? In 35 years, people with attitudes like that, they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
That's just my experience. I'm not saying they're not gonna.
And if you're asking to get booked, you're likely asking to get booked for an opening slot a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
And what do people need to understand about what an opening slot is?
That's a big debate right now. It's been a big debate the last few years. In fact, we put a thing on our story in Snapchat, a little poll a few weeks ago about this because it's ongoing and it's very heated and very polarized. There's one side that says as opening DJ, you should be supporting what the headliner's doing. Okay. And the other side is fuck it. I'm there to perform. Show you what I got. Okay.
Yep.
I see both sides.
Yeah.
I grew up in an era where you built an event, right? Now, if it's just a locals event and that's it, go nuts, do whatever you want. But if you're bringing an artist in from around the country, people are buying a ticket to see that artist. Not me, not you, and not some other local DJ. 98% of the people there are there to see that headliner. So to me as a promoter, the focus is around that headliner and the energy for that headliner.
And making sure that it aligns with the event.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I support that perspective 100%. I also understand how, as a local DJ, you want to start your stuff, right? So like our after parties where we had 2 rooms and 39 DJs, go nuts. Do whatever you want.
Yeah. Know the situation, the context.
Yeah, exactly. I think for a young DJ, I think that's vital. Know the context. But like I said, it's really polarized. But I can tell you as a promoter, if I have a DJ playing and someone comes in and plays too hard and goes crazy, literally the headliners will say something. They're like, why is the DJ doing this? Because the headliners, it's, the people are there for that energy. And as a promoter, you want the artist to have a good time. And if the openers are going too hard or playing too much and not setting up the headliner, yes, it's great for the local.
Yeah, that's so tricky though. Like, how do you handle that?
It's tricky.
Yeah,
it is tricky, but we do it by booking certain DJs. I'm not gonna lie to you. If a DJ comes in and plays too hard and takes away from the overall mood of the night, we just generally don't book them again.
How do you communicate that to a DJ beforehand, or how does how does somebody communicate to you that they understand it?
Well, they communicate that they understand. We don't honestly communicate a lot unless it's an artist that we know we have to.
Okay.
So for example, in the dubstep rhythm world, it's angry, heavy music. It's very common. Those artists go hard all the time. When Excision plays at the Armory and plays 2 nights and sells them both out, at 9 o'clock when it starts, it's hard. Do I agree with it? I don't. Because, and you can see it. You can see it. The Excision nights go from 8 to 2 in the morning or 9 to 2 in the morning. By 1:30 in the morning, everyone's exhausted because they've been going hard all night, you know?
Right.
Now, they book it. They a lot of times design their lineups. So it's out of my control anyways. So I'm cool with it.
Sure.
I just prefer the energy. My preference for the energy for the headliner is the top.
Right. It should build.
Yep. That's what I like. But if someone's curating their lineup, it's to each their own.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course. Then it's not on you anyways.
Yep. So like bass music shows and dubstep shows, generally people go hard all the time. I don't have a problem with it. It's all good.
Yeah.
We don't communicate anything. You know, we have got an event coming up this Friday at Crave Rooftop. It's progressive house music. It needs to build. You know, the DJs we book for it this weekend, we know what they'll do. You know, if it's someone that's newer, I might say something like, hey, you know, got to keep it somewhere around this BPM, you know. If it's the artist that's doing the direct support slot right before the headliner, here's how I try to balance it. Generally, DJs don't show up until like half hour before their show, before their set. So when I tell a DJ playing the direct support slot where it needs to program a little bit, I generally say, hey, go nuts the first half hour. The stuff you really want to have fun with, go nuts. And then the last half hour, try and tame it down a little bit. Because in an ideal world, then you can provide that local artist both.
Yeah, and the show's energy kind of comes up, comes down a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. So you get little small peaks along the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then that local DJ has an opportunity to really have some fun more in the way they want, but then it can also set up the night properly. So that's how I try to balance it when I can. And so every now and then you got to tell a DJ, hey, that was just, it's not how it works. You know, because there's tons of different genres of EDM. Like I said, in the bass music world for EDM, no one gives a shit. Go hard. Right? It doesn't matter.
Context.
Right, exactly. It's reading the room in the context. But the problem is that in the DJ world with young DJs, they don't know there's differences. So you have to try and teach that. So trying to take opportunities and teach that when you can, depending on the context.
Yeah. Oh man, I have so many more questions, but I think it's good to wrap up at this point. We've been at it for a while. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you feel like is an important thing to add?
My biggest, being that this is really a community-based focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
For DJs and producers, love the music. And don't lose sight of that love. It's going to be hard, but you got to be patient and you will have to work hard. Some people get lucky nowadays, but the people that I see make it work are the people out there working really, really hard and understanding and not putting themselves first. You know, realizing that the community, what defines a community is people. A group of people on some level, that if you realize you're part of a community, that's what you are, part of that. You know, I'll use Eddie Adams as an example. He's a local DJ, nice guy in the world. He's just real. He loves the music, but he gets it. He will do whatever it takes. And that's why he's probably the most popular local DJ in town right now, because he understands that. He's humble. He's hardworking.
Can you give an example of when you say like he'll do whatever it takes or he understands it? Like what does that look like in real life?
Everything from putting time and effort into social media content, talking to the promoters, putting the set together properly, bringing the energy, being on time, you know, engaging with people, playing the music. You know, for example, he played playing the Armory stage is like the end all game for Twin Cities DJs, right? That is the end game. Play the Armory stage. you play a great set. I'll use a perfect example. Okay. So he was perfect. He did the perfect opening set. It was New Year's Eve. Actually, no, we usually do 2 or 3 nights around New Year's Eve. It was a different night, but he played perfectly. We had another DJ that played a couple years ago at the Armory we booked, and he didn't do that. And he was sneaking around backstage in places he was told not to sneak around, just breaking the rules because he cared about. He wanted to run into the headliner. You know, he focused more on himself,
on what he could get out of it.
Yes, he will never play the Armory again for one of my shows. Eddie Adams is already booked to play another one. Right? So once again, that is the proof's in the pudding right there. Like, understand you are part of this community. That I've always been a firm believer that when the community is strong, my company's going to get some. Right? So when other promoters are throwing events and people doing events, yes, it's competition. And there's difficulties with that sometimes. And there's give and take. But the more people are doing things, the more they're spreading the love and passion and energy of EDM music. And you are passing it on. So there's more people. So I'm going to get mine. If the stronger it is, I'm not always going to get mine, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, because the more people are going to get it, the more they're spreading that love and energy. It's going to continue to grow. And that's what the Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities music scene, EDM, is right now. It is all this passion and energy continuing to spread. I
love it. Well, if people want to, connect with SIMshows, connect with you, where do you like to send people? Website or Instagram or anything like that?
Before I knock that out, can I do one shout out?
Please do.
Ned Abdul. Ned Abdul is the guy behind the Armory and the new amphitheater. And, if you Google him, you'd find stuff, but he's a real dude. My company was in a position about 14, 15 years ago where I was done. I was out of business. And he saved me. I sat in his office. He was a place I was doing regular business with at the Epic Event Center. I told him, I said, I'm done. Like I lost everything at an event I had, and then some, and I had debt. I owed money. He may get mad at me for sharing this, but too bad. He said, how much you need, JT? I told him. He wrote me a check for more and said, pay it back to me whenever you can. I would not be where I am right now. The irony is he owns the Armory and lets me do whatever I want. It's crazy, right? Like, he saved my company. And the reason I bring him up is because he gets trash talk because people don't know him. Yeah. They don't know him, but he's as real as it gets and he takes care of people. So he saved me and here I am because of that. So,
and it goes to the broader point of a lot of what we've been talking about through the whole episode here, which is relationships.
Yes.
And caring about the community and the people that you can take care of them. It's good for everybody. It's even what we talked about off camera before we got started about even like my ambitions with the podcast of like, yeah, it's cool. I get to have these one-on-one conversations, but it's also good for the community. Doing good things can benefit you and other people,
100%. Yes.
That's where you want to be.
Yes. 100%.
You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to give everything to everybody else, And in Ned's case, he helped you, but what did he get out of return? A long-term person that's been helping put on huge shows at the Armory.
He knows I'm loyal and dedicated.
Yeah.
And I will always work hard for him. That's why he wrote me that check that day.
Correct.
Because before he wrote the check, I was the same way. I mean, Ned, there was a guy, Patrick. I called him Glue. He worked for Ned. He's white. He's wired a little different. I would guess he is on the autism spectrum. Nice dude in the world. But he's the guy, I called him Glue. That was my nickname for him forever. I've known, he passed away a year and a half ago. But he worked for Ned at Epic Event Center. And then when Ned bought the Armory and redid it, he worked there. But he's the most unassuming guy, but the guy that would always do whatever needed to be done. That's why I called him Glue. Yeah. He was the glue that always, he held everything together.
Yeah.
Ned always took care of him. Right? he made sure that Patrick was always taken care of, right? People wouldn't know this because Ned is a real estate guy. He's worth, I don't even know how much he's worth. It's ridiculous, right? But you see what he's worth and what he does, right? But you don't see what he really does, all the time, from someone like Patrick, to someone like me who's then taken this power to be able to use it as a platform. So how do people contact me? Reach out. SIMshows. That's our social media. I'm Jack Tasch on social media. I love having conversations with people. I'm busy a lot, but I love having conversations with people. I love getting to know my fans. This weekend was great, just sitting around the fireplace and talking to people. So people, I'm here. I've lived and breathed the Twin Cities music community since 1990. I've never thought I'd be doing it still. And I'm really, really thankful for that.
Well, we're thankful to have you.
So
the scene is lucky to have people like you making it into what it is, because it doesn't just happen on its own. It takes dedication. It takes sacrifice. It takes so much hard work. And it's clear that you've been doing all of those things. So thank you.
It's symbiotic, and shout out to all the fans through all the years and all the people in my company for all those years where there wasn't money.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
For everybody that tuned in, thank you so much for checking in again. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with some people, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.